The distress signal echoed through the silent void of the Andarian sector. A desperate cry from a dying world. It was weak, broken, and fading with every passing second. But it carried a single message that froze anyone who heard it. Please, someone help us. The Galactic Council received it first. Their holographic chambers flickered with nervous colors as ambassadors from dozens of alien races listened. The transmission came from the border of the Deathworld zone, a region long avoided, known only for one terrifying rumor. Humanity lived there. Councillor Vareen of the Karth Dominion frowned. His translucent blue skin shimmered with unease. If it's near the Deathworlder's space, we should ignore it, he said. You all know what happens when they get involved. The chamber fell silent, remembering old whispers, forgotten battles, and entire fleets erased from star charts. But then another voice spoke, soft and trembling. The ones calling for help. They are children. That changed everything. The council debated, argued, and finally decided to forward the message to every nearby sector, praying that someone would answer before it was too late. Far beyond their reach, deep inside the scarred orbit of Mars, an ancient listening array blinked to life for the first time in centuries. Its sensors picked up the same faint signal. The computers automatically translated it, decoded it, and sent it to an old forgotten server on Earth. At first, no one noticed. Then Captain Mira Holt, stationed at the Terran Defense Command, received the ping. She frowned as the coordinates appeared, Andarian sector. That's Deep Council territory, she muttered. Why would they contact us? She replayed the message. The sound of a child crying filled the command room, followed by explosions and a robotic voice whispering, They are coming. Mira's blood turned cold within minutes. She sent an alert to the unified Earth fleet. The room lights shifted from calm blue to crimson red. Priority 1 distress call, the system announced. Origin, non-human colony. Threat level, unknown. Humanity had remained silent for almost a century. They watched, waited, and stayed within their systems, letting the galaxy believe they were dormant. But when a call for help came, especially from the innocent, they answered. On the bridge of the dreadnought Erebus, Admiral Kane stood tall, watching the tactical display light up with activation codes. Set course for the Andarian sector, he ordered. His voice calm but edged with steel. Sir, that's council space. One officer reminded him nervously. I don't care, Kane replied. Someone asked for help, and we're not the kind to ignore it. Engines roared to life. The human fleet, dark, massive, and silent, began to rise from orbit like ghosts waking from a long sleep. Thousands of ships aligned into formation, their hulls reflecting the pale light of Earth's moon. The stars trembled as Project Aegis was reactivated. Meanwhile, the council's panic spread. They're moving, Vareen hissed, staring at reports flooding in. The humans are mobilizing. They wouldn't dare, said another. This is a simple rescue, isn't it? Vareen's voice darkened. Nothing is simple when Deathworlders move as one. As the human fleet jumped into hyperspace, the last thing the council sensors saw was a ripple, a distortion that made the void itself shudder. And somewhere, far across the galaxy, the frightened colony whispered in awe as new stars appeared in their sky, glowing brighter and brighter. Their prayer had been heard, their saviors were coming, and the galaxy was about to remember why humanity was feared. The dark of space cracked open like glass as the human fleet emerged from hyperspace. The lead dreadnought Erebus tore through the void, surrounded by smaller destroyers and carriers that glowed with silent power. There was no sound, no warning, only the cold presence of thousands of human warships appearing at once. The alien colony below, the planet Threxia 9, was burning. Its skies were filled with smoke, its oceans boiling from orbital strikes. The invaders were a brutal insectoid species known as the Varkun, famous for enslaving entire populations and feeding on the weak. They had ignored the Council's laws, and now they were paying the price of their own arrogance. On the surface, alien civilians huddled in broken shelters, eyes fixed on the heavens. They saw streaks of blue light slice across the clouds as something enormous entered the atmosphere. To them, it was not rescue. It was judgment. Human fleet detected, a Varkan warlord hissed, its mandibles twitching. Primitive species. Easy prey. But their sensors began screaming an instant later. The sheer energy output of the human ships overloaded their scanners. Weapons that had never fired in centuries hummed with awakening fury. Admiral Kane stood at the command deck of the Erebus, hands clasped behind his back. "Target their orbital carriers," he said quietly. "No mercy for slavers." Dozens of human railguns aligned. The soundless void flashed with streaks of light as metal slugs ripped through space at near-light speed. One by one, the Varkan carriers exploded into silent fire, their burning wrecks drifting like dying suns across the sky. Down below, the aliens who had called for help could only stare. They had never seen such precision, such terrifying power. Ships moved like dancers. Firing in perfect unison, each blast found its mark. In the war room of the Galactic Council, chaos erupted. "By the stars, they brought Erebus," one ambassador gasped. "That ship was banned after the Sol Wars," another cried. "Who authorized this invasion?" "No one," whispered Vareen, his eyes wide. "Humans don't ask for permission." Back on Threxia 9, human drop pods fell from orbit, glowing red against the clouds. The ground shook as soldiers in black armor emerged. Their helmets gleamed with the reflection of fire. They moved in perfect silence, scanning survivors, giving food, and directing civilians to safe zones. One alien child tugged on a soldier's gloved hand. Voice trembling, "You came," she whispered. "You really came." The soldier knelt, visor flashing with soft blue light. "You called," he said simply. "We answer." Above them, the sky roared again. Not from human fire, but from the arrival of something bigger. A single ship descended through the storm, larger than any seen before. Its hull bore the mark of Earth itself, a white symbol of a rising sun over blue oceans. It was the Ark, humanity's mobile command city, a legend said to have disappeared 100 years ago. Now it had returned. The Varkan panicked, sending everything they had. Plasma bolts and energy cannons tore through the clouds, but the human fleet's shields flared to life. Absorbing the storm without slowing down, Admiral Kane watched the display with calm eyes. "Transmit on open frequency," he ordered. "Message, sir?" asked the comm officer. Kane's voice was steady. "Tell them the Deathworlders heard their cry," he said. "And we are answering." The message spread across the stars, reaching every listening station, every frightened world in one moment. The legend of humanity's silence was broken. In the next, the galaxy realized the Deathworlders were not gone. They were back, and they were angry as the smoke cleared over Threxia 9. Alien survivors saw the human banners rising from the ruins. The words written on them were simple, ancient, and terrifying to those who remembered the old wars. "Terra protects." The news spread faster than light across the galaxy. Every comm station, every outpost, every ship whispered the same words with disbelief. "The Deathworlders have returned." In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, chaos had become routine. Holoscreens filled the chamber with human fleet footage, endless loops of the dreadnought Erebus vaporizing Varkan carriers. Ambassadors shouted over one another, tails, wings, and tendrils thrashing in panic. "The humans crossed council borders without permission," one roared. "They broke the Treaty of Silence," cried another. Counselor Vareen stood motionless, his eyes fixed on the human emblem glowing across the broadcast. He remembered that symbol from his academy lessons. "Terra protects." The words burned into his memory like a warning from history. "Summon the High Command," Vareen said quietly. "We must contact the humans before this becomes a war." But deep down, he already knew. It was already too late. The moment humanity had moved as one, the balance of power in the galaxy had shattered. Far from the Council's panic, Admiral Kane stood on the observation deck of the Ark below. Threxia 9 shimmered in the aftermath of liberation. Fire still burned, but life was returning. Children played near the landing bays, their laughter echoing against cold steel walls. Commander Holt approached him, holding a data pad. "Casualty reports are minimal," she said. "We've stabilized the planet's orbit, and the locals are safe." Kane nodded. "Good," he replied. "Send medical units to the lower cities and make sure they know humanity doesn't come as conquerors." Holt hesitated. "Sir, the Council's transmission came through again." Kane's eyes hardened. "And?" "They're demanding an explanation for our incursion," she said. "They claim we violated border laws." Kane turned toward the stars, his reflection merging with the endless void. "Tell them this," he said slowly. "When a child cries for help, we don't check the map." On the Council's flagship Obsidian Crown, Vareen watched the message replay. The room fell silent. Even those who despised humanity could feel the weight of those words. "Deathworld logic," muttered one ambassador. They justify everything with emotion. Vereen glared at him. And yet they win, he said sharply. You've forgotten what they are. A younger diplomat leaned forward nervously. What are they? Vereen's voice dropped to a whisper. They are what the galaxy made them, he said. Survivors of a world that tried to kill them every day. Creatures who looked at extinction and decided to fight instead. He leaned closer, his tone dark. And now that they've awakened again, no one, not even us, can stop them. Back aboard the Ark, engineers worked tirelessly as the human fleet regrouped. Their mission was supposed to be a rescue, but reports were already coming in. Other colonies across the rim were under threat. More SOS signals were being detected. More worlds crying for help. Commander Holt approached again, concern in her eyes. Sir, are we responding to the new signals?
Kane looked at the display, a map filled with blinking red dots.
Each one a desperate voice in the void. Yes, he said firmly. Every single one. But the Council will declare war, she warned. Kane smiled faintly. They already did. The moment they let the Varkun burn children alive. Outside the viewport, the fleet began to move again, engines igniting like dawn breaking through the dark. Each ship carried not just weapons but conviction, a promise that humanity had returned to the stars. In the shadow of the galactic core, hidden in the black regions where light itself bends, the Varkun survivors gathered. Their queen hissed with rage, her eyes burning with hatred. They think this is over, she said. They have only awakened the swarm. And as her claws dug into the holographic map of human space, her voice echoed across the hive. Send every fleet, every soldier. We will drown their Deathworld in fire. But in the far distance, past the edge of their scanners, the humans were already waiting, watching, preparing. Their war engines hummed softly like sleeping beasts, and from the heart of Earth, a message pulsed across the void. You called for help, we answered. Now, we protect. The silence of the galaxy broke once again, not with a whisper this time, but with the roar of vengeance. From the dark regions beyond known space, the Varkun swarm began to move. Their ships were not elegant like the Council's vessels, nor disciplined like humanity's fleets. They were living nightmares, organic leviathans of metal and flesh, glowing with the light of their queen's rage. Across the void, billions of smaller crafts formed rivers of fire, each one pulsing with the same message. For every hive burned, 1,000 worlds will fall on the Ark. The alarm screamed red. Commander Holt rushed to the main deck, her voice sharp. Sir, the swarm has mobilized. Admiral Kane turned slowly, his face unreadable. How many? Too many, Holt said softly. They're coming from every direction. Kane looked at the tactical map, a sea of red dots swallowing blue. They want war, he muttered. Then we'll remind them what war truly means. He stepped toward the comm unit, his voice calm but heavy. Activate Project Aegis far below. On the surface of Threxia 9, the rescued aliens watched in fear as massive human ships began rearranging their formations. The air vibrated with strange energy, and the clouds started to glow in orbit. The fleet was forming something vast, an enormous sphere of light and steel, surrounding the entire planet like a cocoon. It was not a weapon, not exactly, it was a shield powered by the ancient cores of Earth's first Dyson reactors. Humanity had built it long ago in the days when they feared the stars themselves, and now it was being awakened once more. Commander Holt watched the readings spike off the charts. The Aegis barrier is stabilizing, she reported. But the power draw, it's immense, sir. We can't hold this forever. Kane nodded slowly. We won't need forever, he said. Just long enough to end this. The Varkun swarm arrived like a storm of blades. Their living ships screeched through the void, firing plasma and acid beams that burned through space itself. The first wave struck the Aegis barrier, causing ripples of light across the sky, but the shield held, glowing brighter with every impact from below. The alien survivors looked up and saw their world bathed in a blue aura. For the first time, they felt safe inside the Ark. The atmosphere shifted. Every soldier knew what was coming next. Admiral Kane gave one look at his officers. You know the rule, he said quietly. We never start wars. He turned toward the stars, his eyes hard as stone. But we finish them. With a single gesture, he signaled, all ships open fire. The void became a battlefield of gods. Railguns thundered, torpedoes streaked like comets, laser batteries carved through the swarm. Every blast shattered a dozen Varkun ships. Their organic hulls burning in silent screams, still they came, relentless, endless. But humanity did not break on the surface. One alien elder watched the sky burn, tears glimmering in her eyes. "Those are Deathworlders," she whispered. "They fight like legends." Hours passed, and the swarm began to thin. But deep inside the chaos, something enormous stirred. The Varkun Queen's flagship. It was the size of a moon, pulsing with black energy. Her voice filled every comm frequency, hissing through static. "You are insects crawling from your cursed world," she spat. "You cannot stop the swarm." Admiral Kane stared at the transmission. "Wrong," he said softly. "We don't stop. We endure." The Erebus turned its cannons toward the Queen's vessel. "Target the heart," Kane ordered. "All power to the main railgun." The energy buildup shook the entire ship. Panels cracked, lights flickered. "Sir." "The gun can't handle that charge," Holt warned. Kane smiled faintly. "Neither can she." The cannon fired. A single beam of white light pierced the void, cutting through the Queen's shield, slicing her ship in half. Silence followed. Then, a burst of light brighter than any star. And the Varkun Queen was gone. The swarm faltered, ships spinning in confusion. Leaderless, directionless, they began to scatter into the void. Admiral Kane exhaled slowly. "Transmission to all fleets," he said. "Let the galaxy know the Varkun threat is over." But as the crew celebrated, Holt noticed something strange on her console. "Sir," she said quietly, "the swarm wasn't attacking just us. They were running from something." Kane froze. "Running?" "Yes, sir," Holt whispered. "There's something else out there beyond the swarm. And it's coming this way." The bridge went silent. Outside, the stars shimmered and then dimmed, as if something enormous moved between them. The war had ended, but humanity's real test had only begun. Silence returned to the stars, but it was not peace. The human fleet floated in the quiet aftermath of victory, surrounded by wreckage glowing like ghosts in the void. Fires burned inside shattered alien ships, drifting through the cold dark like dying embers of a forgotten war. Admiral Kane stood on the observation deck of the Ark, watching the stars flicker strangely. Something was wrong. The constellations themselves seemed to move. Commander Holt approached, voice low. "Sir." "Long-range sensors are picking up distortions," Kane turned. "From the swarm?" She shook her head. "No, sir." "From beyond the swarm?" He frowned. "Define beyond." She hesitated. Outside the galactic rim, the bridge went silent. Even the hum of engines felt smaller, quieter. The data stream flickered, radiation spikes, gravitational waves, electromagnetic noise. It was as if the universe itself was whispering in pain. In the council chambers, panic was spreading again. Reports from distant observatories arrived one after another. Entire sectors were losing signal, stars blinking out like candle flames. Farine stood before the holographic map, voice trembling. "What is this?" he asked. The AI analysts responded in cold precision. "Unknown anomaly approaching from extragalactic coordinates. Speed, impossible. Size, immeasurable." One ambassador hissed, "Is it human?" Farine shook his head slowly. "No, even they would not build something like that." On the Ark, the crew watched as the first images came through. A structure, if it could be called that, drifting beyond the edge of the galaxy. It was not a ship, not a planet, it was something in between. A living machine of shadow and light, its surface rippling with cities that moved like breathing skin. The computer tried to calculate its mass and failed. The numbers overflowed, every reading returned the same word. Error. Commander Holt stared at the display, her heart pounding. "It's not coming toward the Council worlds," she whispered. "It's heading straight for us." Admiral Kane watched quietly. "Then we face it," he said simply. "Prepare all ships, charge the railguns, and deploy the Aegis again." Hours later, the human fleet aligned, every ship took formation, their engines glowing faint blue against the darkness. The alien survivors on Threxia 9 watched in awe as the skies above them began to shimmer again. But this time the light wasn't coming from human ships. It was coming from beyond the stars. The horizon bent, space itself folding inward. Then came the voice, not through comms, not through sound. It entered their minds directly. Ancient and vast. "You killed my servants," it said. The bridge lights flickered. "Who are you?" Kane demanded. The voice was calm. too calm. "I am the first," it said, "the one who made the swarm." The crew froze. Every species in the council had myths about ancient beings, gods who shaped galaxies before time began. But no one believed they were real until now. The entity's shape filled the void, its tendrils spanning across light years. Stars dimmed as it passed, its shadow stretching across the human fleet. Kane's voice was steady. "We don't bow to gods," he said. "Then you will burn with your world," it replied. Commander Holt's hands moved across the console. "Activating Earth's deep defense protocols, sir," she whispered. "Project Omega is still incomplete." Kane nodded. "It's time to test it." A series of encryption codes flashed through the fleet network, unlocking hidden systems buried deep within human ships. Massive structures extended from the Erebus, panels shifting to reveal something no alien had ever seen before. A weapon built not to destroy, but to rewrite, a beam capable of bending reality itself. Kane's voice echoed through the comms, calm and fierce. "To every ship, to every soldier, today we face something older than war. Older than fear, but remember this, we are humans. We were born in chaos, we were shaped by death, and we do not surrender." The weapon charged, light gathering like a newborn star at the center of the fleet. The alien entity loomed closer, its voice filling the air. "You dare stand against creation?" Kane's lips curved into a faint smile. "No," he said. "We stand for it." The fleet fired, a blinding beam tore through space, piercing the heart of the ancient creature. The stars went white and then silence. When the light faded, the void was still again. The entity was gone. Only a faint echo remained, a whisper that seemed to laugh. Deathworlders. Still defiant on the surface, dawn broke over Threxia 9. The sky was clear for the first time in centuries. Children pointed upward, seeing the fleet drifting peacefully in orbit. To them, the humans were not monsters, they were protectors, legends made real. Admiral Kane stood at the window, voice low. "We've seen what's out there now," he said. "And it's not done." Holt nodded quietly. "Then we keep moving." Kane turned toward her, eyes burning like distant suns. "Because when the universe calls for help," he said, "humanity will always answer." The galaxy was quiet again, but silence after terror was never peace. Every world, every species, every council member watched the human fleet drifting in the void with new eyes. They had seen what the Deathworlders could do. They had seen a force that stood against something older than time itself, and lived in the council chambers. Arguments raged for days. Some demanded alliances. Others demanded restrictions, but beneath the fear, there was something deeper. Respect. Even those who hated humans could no longer deny the truth. Humanity had become the shield of the stars. On board the Ark, the mood was different. Admiral Kane stood beside Commander Holt, both staring at the holographic map of the outer rim. Faint energy readings blinked beyond the galactic edge. Whatever they had destroyed wasn't gone, not entirely. "The readings are fragments," Holt said softly. "Residual energy from that thing." Kane nodded. "Pieces of it still exist." He turned toward the engineers. "Then we prepare for when it returns." Beneath the Ark's armored hull, deep within its core, the scientists of Earth began work on something ancient, Project Omega, a plan born in the final years of the Sol Wars. It was meant to be humanity's last defense if the galaxy ever turned against them. Now it was being reborn for something far greater. Dr. Alara Voss, the lead physicist, stood before the gathered officers, her voice steady but filled with awe. "Project Omega isn't a weapon," she said. "It's evolution." The room fell silent as she activated the hologram. A sphere of light appeared, expanding and pulsing with shifting colors. "This will allow us to harness the fabric of dark matter itself," she continued, "to move beyond the physical limits of energy, time and gravity." Commander Holt frowned. "You're talking about rewriting the laws of physics." Alara smiled faintly. "No, Commander," she said. "We're just learning how to use them properly." For months, the fleet remained near Threxia 9, guarding the colony and collecting debris from the fallen swarm. Human engineers salvaged alien cores, merged technologies, and pushed science into unknown realms. Their ships grew faster, their shields brighter, their weapons quieter but stronger. The galaxy watched with unease. Rumors spread that the Deathworlders were building something that could change existence itself. Counselor Vereen received secret reports daily. The holograms showed strange energy signatures around the Ark, Omega, he whispered. They're building the impossible, another ambassador hissed. We can't let them finish it. Vereen shook his head slowly. No, he said, we can't stop them either. In the heart of the Ark, Dr. Voss stood before the containment core. The device pulsed like a living heart. Humming with low frequency, you feel it? She asked softly. Kane stood beside her. It's alive, he said. Not alive, she corrected gently. Connected to everything, to every particle of space, she turned toward him. Her voice a whisper. If we succeed, Admiral, humans won't just travel the stars. We'll become part of them. Kane's gaze hardened. And if we fail? Voss looked at the swirling light. Then we end. When Omega finally activated, the stars around the Ark shifted. Light bent, colors twisted, time slowed. Every ship in the fleet reported systems flashing between seconds. Space itself began to breathe from the outside. It looked as if a new star was being born. One made not of fire. But thought inside, Kane held his position, voice steady despite the chaos. Hold the line, he ordered. Don't break formation, energy surged, and then, stillness. Omega stabilized. A ring of pure light spread outward, stretching across millions of kilometers. The human fleet floated within its glow, untouched, reborn. Voss stared at the readings, tears in her eyes. We did it, she whispered. We've reached the singularity threshold, but even as they celebrated, deep sensors on the edge of Omega picked up something faint. A whisper through the static. It wasn't the Varkun. It wasn't a signal from the Council. It was a voice. The same voice they thought they had destroyed. Clever little Deathworlders, it said. You've opened the door. The light flickered. Space twisted again. And from the far edge of the Omega field, a shadow began to form. A shape larger than galaxies, older than creation. Kane's expression turned cold. He glanced at Holt. Get ready, he said. Ready for what, sir? He stared into the dark. For round 2. Darkness rolled through the stars like a storm of shadows. The universe itself seemed to shudder as the colossal entity emerged from beyond the Omega field. It was not matter nor energy, but something older. Something that remembered the birth of time. Its voice echoed through every ship. Every mind, every heartbeat. You opened the gate, it said. Now you will see what waits beyond creation. The human fleet stood silent in its light. Admiral Kane watched from the bridge of the Ark, his face calm, eyes glowing in the reflection of the Omega ring. Commander Holt whispered, Sir, that thing. It's bending space like cloth. Kane nodded slowly. Then we tear it back, Dr. Voss's voice came through the intercom. Trembling but focused. Admiral, Omega is unstable. The field is collapsing inward. How long do we have? Minutes, maybe less. Then we finish this before it ends, Kane said. His voice steady. No more waiting, no more running. Outside, the shadow grew arms of light vast as solar systems. Worlds cracked under its passing, stars dimmed. Even the Council's distant stations could see it from light years away. A wound opening in reality. Vereen stood before his council, silent, tears in his eyes. This is no longer a war, he whispered. This is the end. But far across the stars, humanity did not surrender. The Deathworlders stood ready once again on the Ark. Engineers rerouted every reactor into the Omega core. The air trembled with power. We can't contain this much energy, Holt warned. Kane looked out the viewport, voice low. We don't need to contain it. He pressed his hand to the command console. We release it. The Omega field pulsed once and then expanded. Light spilled across the void, touching the shadow. The creature screamed, a sound without sound, shaking galaxies. Impossible, it thundered. You wield my fire, Kane's voice answered through the comms. No, he said. We turned your fire into hope. Every ship in the human fleet linked into the Omega network. Energy flowed through them like veins of lightning. Dreadnoughts glowed brighter than suns. Carriers melted into light. Cruisers dissolved into brilliance. Becoming part of the field, each human vessel became a fragment of something greater. Something divine. Dr. Voss stood inside the core chamber, hair floating in the energy stream. She whispered into the void. You tried to destroy life. But life fights back. Her hands entered the light, merging her consciousness into the Omega pulse. The shadow lunged, swallowing stars. The humans countered, not with weapons, but with unity. Every thought, every heart, every memory of Earth, every echo of love, pain, and survival, and it all merged. The Omega field became alive across the galaxy. Alien worlds stopped and watched. They saw the sky blaze white brighter than day. They saw an expanding wave of light that didn't destroy. It healed. Dead worlds bloomed again. Frozen suns reignited. And through the shimmering clouds they saw silhouettes of human ships turning into starlight. Counselor Vereen fell to his knees, whispering, "They are becoming one with the stars," the entity screamed once more, its form cracking. "You cannot win," it roared. "You are fragile, fleeting, mortal." Kane's voice came back quiet and fierce. "That's what makes us unstoppable." He placed his hand on the control panel one last time. "Commander Holt," he said softly. "Yes, sir. Tell them back home." Humanity answered. The Omega core reached critical. The light consumed everything. Then, silence. When the glow faded, the void was calm again. No wreckage, no darkness, no shadow. Only stars shining brighter than before from that day forward. The galaxy spoke of the last dawn of Omega, a moment when humans stood against the end of everything, and became something eternal. Some said their souls became part of the Omega ring. Some said they ascended beyond the veil. But on the surface of Threxia 9, when the night sky returned, children looked up and saw a new constellation glowing above them. 7 lights arranged in a perfect circle, forever burning where the Ark once stood. And as the winds whispered across the reborn world, a faint voice echoed through the static of every signal. "You called for help," humanity answered, "and the stars remember."